We return now to France. Yesterday's attacks, among other things, put a spotlight on the growing tensions between the country's Muslim and immigrant community and a large portion of French society. NewsHour's Megan Thompson got a first-hand account of that divide on a recent reporting trip to the southern city of Marseille.
This city of more than 850,000 is France's second largest and one of its most diverse. About 500 miles southeast of Paris and on the Mediterranean, Marseille is home to tens of thousands of immigrants from throughout Europe and more recently from North Africa. By some estimates, the city is now 30 to 40% Muslim, one of the highest concentrations of Muslims anywhere in this overwhelmingly Catholic country. Even before yesterday's attack, and even before two other recent attacks in France by Muslim men, tensions in Marseille between Muslims and non-Muslims had been rising.
It's awfully complicated, all of this with the arrival of the foreigners who have changed everything in the town of Marseille.
Retired photographer Claude de Gaham has lived in Marseille his entire life. He says he's felt things change over the years.
Before, everyone knew each other. Even the first immigrants in Marseille, the Italian, Spanish, all of that, it all worked fine. Perhaps because it was the same religion. But what came after? It's a lot more complicated, less integrated.
And that, he says, has given rise to uneasiness. Difficult encounters are already occurring.
The old Marseillais are annoyed to have people who come and bother them in their hometown, because we have our ways. And the new arrivals feel not well accepted, and so you feel their hatred increasing. You can see it in the buses. There are fights, and that didn't happen before.
We asked if he believed new immigrants are to blame.
I'm absolutely convinced that the main problems come from this.
There are a lot of verbal insults. The stares, people in the streets looking at me.
Natalie Bensia was born in France, the daughter of an Algerian immigrant. She converted to Islam in her early 20s and is now married to an imam. The mother of 7 says once or twice a month she's ridiculed because she wears a headscarf. She also says she's been excluded from her children's school field trips, and back in 2012, nearly had a confrontation in a store.
A woman tore into me, really insulted me. She said, "You've rejected our origin," because she knew that I'm French because I told her. She really insulted me with all these names. She almost hit me.
Bensia says she reported the incident to police, but nothing happened. According to one survey taken last spring, about a quarter of the French population had an unfavorable view of Muslims, which was actually much lower than other European countries. But during our visit to Marseille last month, many Muslims we spoke to told us about what they say is widespread job discrimination, unfair media portrayals of all Muslims as terrorists, and a pattern of hostile remarks.
It doesn't bother me. I ignore them. But when you have your kids with you and someone insults you, it's degrading. And frankly, when it happens on the street, it's hard to justify it to the kids. They don't understand. My son, he says, when I'm big, I'm going to fight these people if they talk to you that way. And I say, you can't respond to aggression with aggression.
Why do you think that people treat you this way?
I think it's fear of the other, and also a lack of understanding of our religion. Also, I think that Muslims don't make enough effort to reach out and to explain the fundamentals of our religion, that there is a lot of respect for others.
We also heard stories about a right-wing politician from Marseille, Stéphane Ravier, whose actions as mayor offended some members of the Muslim community. He once interrupted a Muslim wedding because the bride was wearing a veil covering her face, a violation of French law. He explained it to us this way.
We have an identity and we also have laws. So French law forbids anyone to be entirely veiled. So I have only applied the law. There's absolutely no Islamophobic, racist, or extremist motivation on my end.
Last September, Javier was elected to the French National Senate, the first time in history anyone from the far-right National Front Party had been elected to that body. The National Front has gained ground in France as worries about the economy and security have grown.
So I am saying to the Muslims, the French Muslims who want to live their Islam, that they have the right to do so, of course. Our country, secularism, allows them to live their Islam.
But Javier also insists that despite France's separation of church and state, the nation's long Christian traditions must be respected.
I would like to remind people that France is a Christian country with an identity, a culture. So I'm telling the French Muslims, don't forget that here it is French soil, and in France, as it is done around the world, we also have to respect religions and rituals, customs, codes. So there is Islam, and there is Islamism, which is growing.
Javier is also critical of national leaders like French President François Hollande for not fully appreciating the threat he says some French Muslims present. And just yesterday, following the mass shooting, the leader of the National Front Party said, "Time's up for denial and hypocrisy. The absolute rejection of Islamic fundamentalism must be proclaimed loudly and clearly."
Massive immigration is causing Islamization. We can see that there are some extremist elements at the heart. They are very active, and the French authorities are completely frozen because they fear being labeled Islamophobic.
French officials estimate as many as 1,000 French Muslims have left to wage jihad.
There is an obvious radical Islamic drift that is becoming more and more violent. We need to take the necessary measures to match this danger.
There is still another aspect to all of this. Many believe relations between Christians and Muslims are further strained because many Muslim immigrants are poor. And during difficult economic times, that leads to resentment about providing for them. The national unemployment rate in France is now about 10%.
The economic situation is extremely serious. We welcome immigrants that have nothing, and many of them have no skills. They become the state's responsibility. We are going to have to house them, provide health care, assist them at all levels.
So what does the future hold for relations between Muslims and Christians in Marseille? There seems to be little optimism.
I think that we'll need a few generations to get used to it. Me? I won't be here. But my kids, I think they will be experiencing some tough moments.
It's getting worse and worse, and frankly, I don't think it's going to get better.
For the NewsHour, I'm Megan Thompson, reporting from Marseille, France.